When we think of the term financial independence, financial freedom, I think it's largely attributed to luxury cars, luxury homes, and traveling endlessly on your private jet. But I think this is kind of the brainwash Western world view that is really disconnected from the reality of what people actually do when they get to this stage in their lives. And this is coming from someone that's nowhere near close, but being in the financial space, I'm watching people right now achieve this goal in their lives. But I also came across a channel that touched base on things that I have never heard before that I think really put things into perspective that led me to making this video today. And the video I stumbled across was things we wish we knew before retirement from a channel called This Is Our Retirement. So there's three tidbitted pieces of advice in here that I want to break down. So I'm just going to show you some highlights. First and foremost, take a listen to this.
The amount of stress we hadn't realized until a few years after retirement, just how different she was. She'd lost all that stress of meeting quotas and all that good stuff.
And I think I'll just add, Norm, that when you're actually doing the job, you actually don't think it is stressful.
No, you don't.
You don't think you are under all this stress until you stop it, do something else, and you think, wow, this is a lot better.
It is.
We like this.
Now, personally, right now, I am a workaholic. A lot of people attribute their own personal identity to their jobs, but I think a lot of people, even at later stages in their lives, people in my personal family that I know stress aggressively over this idea and trying to put themselves in the best working position. But I think too often we forget that we're not going to be in this position for the rest of our lives, and to get overly, committed to a level where it's kind of consuming the stress and kind of taking years off your life might be a little bit ridiculous. But I'm personally a workaholic. I do like way too much all the time. And when I'm not doing work, I'm experiencing extreme anxiety. So I find this kind of more relaxing for me than maybe like a personal vendetta to get away from it or something like that. But that's kind of just the first introduction here. But where things really hit hard and really hit close to home, guys, is the exact opposite advice than Dave Ramsey would give, a really big financial advisor out there, right, about home ownership. These guys put things into perspective that I've noticed a few people in the community have been doing, and just take a listen.
We had an inspector come to the house for I don't even remember what it was, but it was some form of home inspection that we had to do. And so we got chatting with him because he was a few years older than us, but not that much. And he told us that he had a house very similar to ours that he had sold, and now he was living in an apartment. And he went through the whole process of them and how they moved to the apartment and how it was such an improvement on their life. And it was something we'd never ever considered, had we?
This was big news to us, wasn't it? We'd never even thought about renting an apartment.
We'd been homeowners since we were 19 years old. So to rent, we had that preconceived idea that it was throwing money away. But the more that we looked into it, so after he left, the next couple of days, we spent many hours thinking about this. We did a budget of how much it costs to keep our mortgage-free home.
Yeah, we crunched all the numbers,
and
we?
what the rent would be, and if we had sold the house. And it made more and more sense to us to sell the house, to downsize into an apartment, bank the money from the house, live off that as an investment, and that's what we did.
This kind of blew my mind because I live in a place where real estate is very expensive. And I imagine a lot of people at this point, at this current economic stage, are looking at their homes as being an excessive part of their financial independence. But unfortunately, most people are living in them and they're not cash flowing out of them. And if you live in an area like I do, where an average home is selling upwards from $800,000 to $1.2 million, that money invested can offer an absurd amount of cash flow. And when you look at kind of the rental prices in different areas where you can rent from $1,000 to maybe $2,500 a month, could be a lot different than you would think if you have $1 million in cash to invest. If you make 10% on $1 million, you are looking at $100,000 $30,000 a year, you could easily float a 30,000 a year rental apartment or property, and then use that rest towards your retirement. And this is something I've seen a lot when we talk about my parents downsizing from this massive farm that they live on to maybe a more comfortable, less intensive home, and also just looking at people in my own financial YouTube community. These people like Hidden Freedom that are about to hit financial independence, that owned a bunch of rental properties and found it to be too overwhelming to constantly manage it. It takes so much attention and time. And I feel like when you get to that retirement stage, winding back from luxuries is probably going to be more prevalent than you think. And I keep seeing this a lot. People in their younger years save up some money. They want all these nice cars and nice homes. And then as they age, they realize, hey, these things don't really mean anything to me. And they're kind of just a waste of space and of time. And they end up selling them to spend more time with family, going out or doing other things in their lives. Now, there's one more tidbitted piece of advice. So take a quick listen.
Another thing that you really need to consider is where your friends are going to come from in retirement. Because once you leave work, those friendships tend to wither away because the only common bond you have was your job, your workplace. So we've never really had lasting friendships from work colleagues. They've always been outside of there. So it's critically important to continue looking for friendships in retirement, and being outgoing and prepared to speak to people.
This one definitely hits, coming from an entrepreneur that has been through many of job placements. I've worked with hundreds of people. I used to be a full-time performer in many different venues for quite extended periods of time, and I met a lot of people, and I actually remember having this very distinct conversation with somebody at a prior job about the insignificance of these people, not in a bad way, but the insignificance of taking relationships too seriously in work environments. I love my current job, and I love the people I work with, and I'm going to show them an extreme amount of respect, but I also recognize that when you make transitions in your life, the likelihood of you having a long-lasting connection with those people can be very slim. Now, keep in mind, I even just had my buddy's wedding, and I saw people that I worked with almost a decade ago, and it's really incredible to see these people and just kind of see where things have kind of gone, and having, kind of these reminiscent, nostalgic conversations about it. And I think that's always a good thing to have. But when you move into retirement, guys, you're probably going to have a little less of that with people that you were currently with in the past, because some of those people might still be working. And I don't know, these people might have some good perspectives. They moved into a smaller town, and they just started making new connections with people that were retired, and, found people perhaps you could travel with a little bit more. And I think that holds true for everybody that I know, including my family. It's just people move on to different chapters of their lives. So don't personally take maybe work relationships all in all that seriously. But this was a really fun conversation, guys. I want to know what you think and what your personal financial independence retire early journey might look like. Maybe I'll do a video about what it'll look like, but it's kind of a hard thing to scale out in that far in the future, because usually I'm looking 5 to 10 years out, and I do have my retirement accounts where I'm looking toward that 60-65 age range. But for now, I pass the question off to you. Let me know what you think in that comment section below. But stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you tomorrow.